What if the person you've been struggling to believe in is actually yourself? David, William, Pierce, welcome back. And this week I reached the 90-day mark in my experiment with sobriety and sexual centeredness. I expected it to reveal more discipline, more focus, and more clarity. But what I didn't expect was for it to reveal a story I'd been carrying for years. A quiet belief that despite everything that I've accomplished, I still didn't really believe in myself. 3 months ago, I decided to stop smoking, using substances, and to retain my sexual energy. Not because those things are inherently wrong, but because I recognized a pattern, a story that didn't sit well with me and was no longer reflecting the man I wanted to become. I wanted to see what happened if I stopped reaching for things that automatically changed my state and distracted me from the things I said I wanted to do. Over those 90 days, I've uncovered layer after layer of unconscious stories. Stories about not being enough, about needing more and not deserving to receive. But this week another one appeared. One that wasn't that I lacked value, it was that I struggled to recognize my own, to celebrate myself. And what struck me most was that I had no difficulty seeing value in others. I love celebrating people and I recognize their gifts and do my best to encourage. But when it comes to myself, it's a different story. Somewhere along the way, I quietly stopped believing that I had really anything of value to offer. One of the topics from this week's Tantric study has been Maya, the divine's power of differentiation. And a simple sentence stuck with me that has really helped change how I see things. That difference is real, but separation is appearance. The universe is an endlessly diverse expression of form. Different people, different personalities, experiences, challenges. Yet beneath every apparent difference lies the same essence. Like waves on the ocean, every wave has a different shape, a different size and lifespan, but every single one has never not been water. Tantra says life is the same way. Everything, whether experience is beauty or challenge, work or play, expansion or contraction, is simply an expression of the same one consciousness. Even you. The realization is that that's when something clicked. I'd spent months looking for the sacred in my life. I'd looked for it in my meditation, my relationships, my work, and my spiritual practice. Then I realized I hadn't missed the sacred in life, but within myself. If every wave has always been water, then there's no way that I'm different. If the same life expresses itself through everything else, then it must be expressing itself through me. So of course I have value. Of course I get to believe in myself. Not because I've finally earned it, but because I was never separate from the source in the first place. I don't think this is unique to me. I think many of us become experts at recognizing the gifts in everyone else while quietly dismissing our own. We celebrate other people's successes and encourage other people's dreams, but not everyone always believes in themselves. Somewhere beneath the surface, so often we keep believing we're not enough. That perhaps the deepest separation we experience isn't from life or from God, but from ourselves. That insight has begun to change something for me. As I was writing my newsletter, I found myself remembering my birthday from April, the first time in 25 years that I actually celebrated it. before that, honestly, I just didn't believe I deserved to, deep down. And somewhere over the last few months, I'd quietly slipped back into that old story. So I asked myself a different question. What if I celebrated myself this week as though it were my birthday? Not to become the center of attention, but to consciously appreciate the gifts with which I've been entrusted, to acknowledge the love I give, the joy I bring, the honoring of the person I'm becoming instead of continually focusing on who I'm not yet. That's a big part of the transformational conversational work that I do. Because most people don't need someone to convince them they're worthy. They need someone to help them see the stories that are convincing them that they're not. Once those stories begin to loosen, life starts to look very different. So if that resonates with you, follow the link in the description and let's chat. I'd love to explore what stories might be quietly shaping your life. Perhaps the biggest lesson for me this week has been that idea that every wave has always been water. Every quality that I've admired in someone else, every act of love I've witnessed, every moment of beauty I've experienced has always been pointing to the same underlying reality. And that same reality is expressing itself through me, through you, through everyone. So the invitation isn't to become someone more worthy, but to simply stop overlooking the sacred that's already there. So I'll leave you with this week's reflection. Where did you miss the sacred this week? Where did you experience beauty, challenge, relationship, work, or even frustration? And how might those ordinary moments have been quietly inviting you to recognize the divine already present within them? If this reflection resonates with you, I'd invite you to watch this week's Tantra study that inspired these reflections, where I explore them in much greater depth. And if you'd like to learn how to take these teachings out of a yogic practice and actually apply them to your life, your relationships, and your work, follow the link in the description to book a breakthrough conversation. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next transmission. Cheers.